The following is an Operation Podcast production.
How do you think your life would be different if every morning you woke up with like that sense of like, holy shit, we're alive? Like, how would your relationships change? How would you be more effective in business? How would you take care of your physical body? How would you engage in new friendships and new experiences and navigate trials if you were really, immersed in the whole feeling of like, wow, this whole human experience is a gift. And it's just a kind of a constant reminder that life itself is the ultimate gift. And so how we engage with life is really, what's going to dictate our inner experience. When you fight with reality, you lose every time. So you can catch yourself in the shoulds and the ifs and the buts, and that's the reality. You have to accept reality. I made that decision. Can I just relax and let go?
And make a new choice.
Yeah, I can always make a new decision.
That's right.
And I'm going to screw up again in the future. I'm going to make terrible decisions. I can handle that.
Whatever happens, I have all the resources that I need to deal with it without whatever feedback comes and make a new decision. A decade into leading transformational movement for women around the world for a global female empowerment company, I was at my lowest as a woman, a wife, a mother, and an empowerment teacher. I was completely lacking that feeling of life being juicy and full of possibilities. I felt stuck, lost, and a deep need to shift from suffering to satisfaction. I just didn't know how. It's taken me another decade to rise from those ashes of my former self. It's taken me 4 of those years to research and develop the practice I had so deeply needed so long ago. That is SoulSway. And I'm so excited to share it with you. It's not just another Simon Says fitness or meditation program. We don't need more of those. The ones that propagate external agendas, perfection, and performance. No. We as a society are ready for the next level of fitness, one that addresses and strengthens all of who we are, mentally, emotionally, physically, and even spiritually. None of us are served in compartmentalizing what makes us whole, especially in our daily self-care practices. Using a groundbreaking blend of somatic movement, mindfulness, and meditation that uses science to soothe your nervous system and spark your inner fire, set to a curated kick-ass soundtrack with immersive cinematic backdrops, we've designed this experience to transport you to inner freedom. Expect results like authentic confidence, a regulated nervous system, feeling revitalized, resilient, and restored in a body that you love. This is a practice for anyone with a body. So yes, I am talking to you. And because I know it works and I want this so badly for you, I'm giving you not only a free week pass, but an additional 50% off your first subscription, monthly or even annual. Head to www.soulswaypractice.com and use code LAMN50 to subscribe. This is your look at me now moment. I hope you seize it. And trust me, science has never felt this good. Are you ready for a wild ride? I'm Alexis Artin, and I invite you to strap in because this is more than a podcast. This is Look at Me Now. Welcome, Doug.
I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. I mean, Doug, introduce yourself. Tell everybody who you are.
Yeah, that's a really good question. There's been a lot of things along my path, but in this moment, I'm currently running a company called Alchemy Coaching, which is a human development program for top professionals. So we focus on physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health for peak performance. And I'm also the author of the best-selling book, Holy Shit, We're Alive.
I mean, best title ever.
Thank you.
Best title. I mean, who hasn't seen that meme, heard that phrase, felt like, wow, that just captures it?
Yeah.
I mean, how did you come up with that title? We have to start there.
So that came to me in an ayahuasca ceremony.
Of course it did.
Right. And it was like 2017. Had my own personal stuff, hence why I seeked out that medicine, and had a night where I, for those that are familiar with the psychedelic space, it gets very intense, where my experience was that like I literally was dead, like I died, like my whole like full ego death, like went through gnashing and gnarly, and like I no longer existed. And it was, and the best way to put it was almost like having a rebirth. And so I was like back in my body, and it felt like I was in my body for the first time. So imagine in your life, Alexis, if you like spawned into consciousness in your like state you're in now. A little bit older, you know the language, you know how to like navigate life, and you can drive a car and whatnot. And then imagine if you're like an alien and you like zapped back into your body and you had never been a human before, but you could already engage with the world. It's not like you're a toddler. And then you were just like around planet Earth. And it was like I was seeing it for the first time. And I was like, holy shit, this is what it feels like to be alive. This is amazing. Like life itself is such a great gift. And it was so profound for me of like things we take for granted on a daily basis. And I use that title as a reminder of the gift of life. And, I always ask like, how do you think your life would be different if every morning you woke up with like that sense of like, holy shit, we're alive? Like, how would your relationships change? How would you be more effective in business? How would you take care of your physical body? How would you engage in new friendships and new experiences and navigate trials if you are really, immersed in the whole feeling of like, wow, this whole human experience is a gift and I can't believe it. And like, holy shit, I get to go be a human. And it's just a kind of a constant reminder that life itself is the ultimate gift. And so how we engage with life is really, what's going to dictate our inner experience.
And did you just like in that moment, not just download, holy shit, we're alive, but did you download like the entire book? Like did it just pour out of you instantly, or was it a process then to write the book?
Book came out in 2021. So it's been 3 years now. But the book kind of is my journey of, I call it, I did everything I was supposed to. Like when you grow up, it's like go to college and get good grades and go get a job and be successful and, do all the things. And I kind of got there at an early age. I did very well in my previous business and previous company. And I'll never forget, I achieved, a certain level of success in my 20s. I was in sales and quickly became one of the top sales reps and was doing, not like crazy insane money, whereas like private jet money, but I was doing very well.
What were you selling?
This is crazy. I did door-to-door sales.
Knocking on doors. That takes some serious cojones, my friend.
I loved it. It fired me up.
Oh my gosh. What were you selling? I have to know.
Home security systems.
Everybody needs them.
Yeah. Well, So it was like, it was the smart home stuff. So like from your phone, you can like view cameras and unlock your doors and change your thermostat.
I have the system. I have one of the systems.
Yeah,
Yes.
you've got it.
I do.
Right? So I sold that door to door, and commissions were really, incentivizing. And the way it was worked in the company was you also got paid on if you brought people into the company. So it was like, if you recruited
almost
people.
Like an MLM kind of situation.
Yeah, an MLM based on performance. And so I was really good at recruiting. I was really good at getting my friends on board. I was really good at training, and I was really good at doing it. And so, things just were very favorable for me in my early 20s. And I'll never forget, I got to a point where, so my big thing growing up, I was an athlete. And I wasn't like a college athlete, but I loved sports. My dad was like my sports coach. And I remember growing up and watching, the Utah Jazz or the 49ers. I grew up in Salt Lake City. So like watching sports with my dad was really fun. And I really got immersed in sports and watching Kobe and the Lakers, It was fun. And so when I started making money, I was like, oh, like I'm going to go to all the cool events. So I was going to the NBA finals, and I've been to multiple Super Bowls, and I've been to, the World Series, which is tonight. The Dodgers play the Dodgers Yankees.
Over it, my friend.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dodgers Yankees tonight. Right. So like 10 years ago, I would have been front row at that game.
Sure.
Like Dodgers, Yankees, World Series, like I'm there. And I'll never forget when I got tickets to a Super Bowl in like, I can't remember what year it was specifically, but it was when the Seahawks were playing the Patriots. It was like one of the greatest Super Bowls ever. And anyone who knows sports knows that the Seahawks were on the 1 yard line. All they had to do was like hand it off to their running back to score a touchdown, but they threw it again and it was intercepted. Like last play of the game, it was like, a big controversy. And I, take a long story short, found myself in a private suite for that game. And I ended up sitting right next to Kevin Durant, who
Sure.
is, NBA MVP. And literally I was like sharing a private suite with Kevin Durant during the Super Bowl. And I'm like, this should be any man's like peak experience.
Sure.
And so of course, when I get into the suite and I sit next to him, what do you think is the first thing I did?
Said hello to him?
Said hello and
Got on your phone.
took a pic.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Took a pic with him. And then what did I do with that pic?
Put it on social media.
Yeah. And then guess where my attention was the whole game?
On him.
On my phone.
Uh-huh.
Who liked it? Who's commenting?
Sure.
Who's sharing? Did the girl I have a crush on like it?
Sure.
How many
Okay.
views?
Yep.
And so
Tracking. Yep.
one of the greatest Super Bowl events ever. And I'm like not present.
Yeah.
I'm like, do people see me? Like I remember posting me like, oh my gosh, people are going to think I'm so cool. Like people are not like, look how cool I am. And
Look at me now.
Look at me now, right? Literally look at me now.
Yeah.
Like I'm in a suite with Kevin Durant at the Super Bowl. Like, and I remember going home later that night and thinking like, I don't even remember the game. Side note too, like I think Katy Perry did the halftime show. So when there was the Sharks, right? I don't know if you guys remember that, but and I loved, Katy Perry was my crush. And I'm like, I don't even remember because I was so consumed in, am I getting validation? Are people liking me? Am I cool enough now? And, it got a lot of traction on social media. Like, my friends were sharing it and people were texting me and blowing me up. And I remember rock bottom actually came about a week later because now that I had that experience, I felt like I had to like keep going to sporting events. And so the NBA All-Star game was shortly after in New York. And I was on a plane and I was going to the All-Star game. And I remember thinking, it was like the first time I was consciously aware, I did some self-awareness here. The plane's taking off and I remember thinking, I don't even want to go to this game. I don't want to go to New York in February. It's freezing. And the only reason I'm going is so that I can take a picture and post it on social media. And I remember feeling like, where do I go from here? Like my finances are in good shape. I'm having fun experiences. Even at the time I was going on a couple of dates of the runner up of Miss USA. And it's like, I'm dating this beautiful Miss USA. And I'm like,
All the boxes are checked.
And I still feel not okay. I still feel angsty. I still feel not enough. I'm still craving validation. I'm just unwell. And for me, it was actually a really scary time because before I achieved maybe some of that level of external success, that's what you think will kind of solve that problem.
Sure.
So you keep striving, you keep grinding, you keep pushing. And I'll never forget, I went and talked to someone in my company and I'm like, hey, I'm like not feeling fulfilled, like needing some like true life guidance. And the advice I got was like, go make more money. And I remember leaving that meeting and I'm like, I don't think that's
the answer.
Gonna do it.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like a really, really scary time for me. And really caused me to do some like deep introspection work at the same time. And it gets even a little bit messier too. So I also grew up Mormon.
Yeah, I was going to say, can you walk us back to the to the origins of all of this? Like where the roots sprouted the human being that this became their story.
Yeah. So I grew up in Salt Lake City. Have you been to Salt Lake City?
I have.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah. Great nature.
Yeah.
Weird kind of, there's like this weird cultural thing going.
Yes.
Right. Because there's the Mormons and then there's the people who leave Mormonism and then there's like this resistance towards it. And there's almost like this like really extremes of super Mormon and now I'm anti-Mormon. And then it's like this weird tension that's like in the city.
Yes.
But beautiful. I mean, if you like to hike and ski and snowboard and it's your jam.
It's all the things.
Yeah, it's all the things. And so growing up in Salt Lake City, I grew up in like the most conservative, white, upper middle class bubble. Everyone's Mormon, everyone's conservative, everyone's white. And when you're like raised in that, you don't know that like anything's different. And so, I have great respect for the Mormon Church. I'm not a member currently and I had left, but they do a really good job of like encouraging development. It's very industrious. Like be a hard worker, be of service, take care of your health, so there's a lot of really good foundation. So, and they lay out the map for you. Like this is what you're supposed to do. Go to college, then go on your service mission where you like, go proselyte and try and convert people to Mormonism for 2 years. And then you get home and then you do your schooling and then you get married and then you have a bunch of kids and then you get the white picket fence and then God's really happy with you. So like, it's all laid out for you.
Sure.
And so I was raised in that and I thought everything was going great. And the first kind of shift that happened is, so the Mormon mission is fascinating because what it does is it takes, it's as a man, it's actually really like expected that you go. And there's a lot of pressure to go on a Mormon mission. It's not like, they say it's optional, but like the internal pressure to go is really high. It's expected. And when you go on a service mission, it's 2 years and you eliminate all distractions. So it's church 24/7, 365. You don't have a phone. You can't get on social media. You can't read other books. You can't listen to other music. It's 24/7. My whole intention and purpose for the next 2 years is to convert people to Mormonism. And you're not in school. You can't participate in extracurricular activities.
And what age is this around?
18 to 20.
Okay.
So it's like this coming of age ritual, right? Which I think there's a lot of valuable skills from there. And so before you go, there's like a standard of worthiness, quote unquote, that you're supposed to abide by. So no porn, no drinking, no sex, no girls. Like you're supposed to keep your spirit pure.
Yes. And interestingly enough, where I know the most about this from is Jodi Ann Arias, that case, the murder case where Jodi Ann Arias murdered her boyfriend who was Mormon.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. So I have some background in this, but like just put in parentheses that's where I got it. Yeah. But go on, continue.
Great source. Great source.
Yeah.
So before that, I was checking all the boxes. I was I was captain of my high school football team. I was like student body vice president, like
high achiever.
Externally, I was kind of like in the community, like, hitting my goals and was like a good, representation of my community.
And just for a second, before we go into the mission part of things, what had made you such a high achiever in the first place? Was there something in your childhood that was like, felt like I have to put my foot on the gas pedal? Was that religion oriented from the start? Was there stuff going on at home? Was it just innate in you that you were a high achiever? Like, what was the formula there?
So 2 things. Great question. As I get older, I realized how incredibly blessed I was in my childhood, in the sense of I came from a very loving home, a very safe home, a very supportive home. My parents were madly in love and were very open. And it's interesting, my dad wasn't Mormon. My mom was, but my dad wasn't. So it wasn't like shoved down my throat. And I actually kind of got 2 different sides of it. But my parents did a really, really good job of, I was raised with the belief that I am capable and I can achieve anything I want, and we support you and we love you. So like, as I get older, I see how incredibly rare that was.
Yeah. Yes.
It's
that's
insane.
That's the first time I've heard it on this podcast.
Yeah. Like I was given like the greatest gift of a very safe, loving home.
Absolutely.
And so there was this part of that's what was kind of expected and it was normalized. Like, like mom and dad support me and love me. And I could make any decision I wanted, in growth and development. And I had their full support and they would actually help me. Like, cool, how can we help you? Do you need a tutor? Do you need, let's teach you this. Like it was very continuous learning and growth in a very safe, loving home. So that kind of gave me confidence, but it's also coupled with this inner feeling of I'm not enough. So I grew up as a fat kid. So I never forget, like 2nd grade, I remember the first time getting teased with my weight. And I remember it was a very distinct moment out on recess. And this kid was teasing me because I was wearing size extra large clothes in 2nd grade. And he's like, you're in 2nd grade and you wear your size extra large, you fatty. And that was like the first moment I'm like, oh, something's wrong with me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, something's wrong with me. I don't fit in, and everyone can see it. Like, it's not like I'm dumb, so I'll be quiet so people can see it, but it's like everyone can see that I'm inherently broken. And so there was also this part of me of like having to prove myself. So if I met a new group of people or if I was in a community, I always felt like I was already -1. I was starting from behind. So now I have to prove myself of why you should accept me, why you should love me, why I should be validated. So I was literally out hustling, as Brene Brown says, like hustling for your worth.
Yeah.
And so I had two things going for me. So I had some positive, like I'm capable of doing it and I have to prove it. And so it was kind of this inner conflict that was happening.
Well, no wonder you were such a rad salesman.
Yeah. Right. Well, it's interesting now because when I look back at my sales career, the number one driver in it was getting validation from women or from my mentors. Like when I went out to knock, I didn't care about the money. I'm like, I want to be number one. Like, I just want to be number one on the leaderboard so people finally see me. Mm-hmm. And so these two things, and what's so cool about this is as I've done more deep inner work, the quote that I love that kind of like guides my life from Dr. Carl Jung. And he says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will guide your life and you'll call it fate. Mm-hmm. And I love that because it's like, until you address these core roots, and I call them the core emotional wounds, they will affect every little decision you make and bleed into everything. And you're like, oh, that's just how my life was.
Yeah. My core wound was, in the framework of that, my minor was unwanted.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure that drove a lot of your decisions and the way you showed up.
Yes.
And your behavior.
It's going to be a curriculum for the rest of my life. Now, granted, I've, done a ton of work and I'm super aware of it. And I, have worked through huge chunks of it, but it will always be there. And I'm always going to have to tend to the part of me that clung to that.
Was there a moment you uncovered that when it was like, oh my gosh, this is it, the core wound?
Yes.
Like, how did you uncover it?
Working with the most bananas spiritual person ever.
What do you mean?
I mean, I was working with a woman who she was in her 60s. I'm actually still working with her now. And she had the most diverse background of study, from like spirituality to psychology to all of these things. She's also an intuitive, and she does a really deep level of work in healing. And I got to her because I had cancer. And I was like, there's some deep, deep healing that needs to be done. And I haven't hit that level yet, as much work as I've done over the past 2 decades. And I have worked with so many people, and I have, invested every resource that I have into my healing. It's not like I haven't done the work, but there was more drilling to do. And this woman was the power tool for sure that helped me get there. And I'm still doing the work with her, and I totally adore her. But it was through that I was like, oh, wow, that's it. Like, that's the lightning bolt. Like that word right there. Like when you talk about, I am such a body person. Like, I'm an embodiment expert. That's my jam. And it's this deep bodily knowing, that like when you hear that word, it's just like everything like plugs in and you go, oh my God, I'm being electrocuted by that word. You know what I'm saying? So that's how the work really began with her, was like her really giving my body's intuition a moment to like dial into which of the words that she read were the one that like was my core wound.
Yeah.
And that was the one.
Yeah. When I think from my experience, when you find that wound, I call it, the core emotion, the CEW, the core emotional wound, like your level of awareness in life just opens up, and you can just be like, you can see all of the patterns and like,
it really is amazing. It's almost like the floodgates completely open and you see it all. And for people that are listening to this and go, this sounds really woo-woo.
Yeah.
I totally get it. It would have sounded woo-woo to me a long time ago as well. And it's baby steps to get there. I've been doing this work for 20 years, and this just happened to me, within the last year.
Wow. Massive breakthrough.
Massive.
Huge.
Massive. And it really is just about like these little small insights along the way, right? It's like one aha moment leads to the next, which leads to the next, the universe opening the door to the next person you're going to meet who's going to help you or reflect to you who you are. And it really all comes down to, and I think you would agree with this, like how available we are to looking at it from more than one perspective, more than just the perspective that perhaps we adopted because it served us once upon a time and it may not serve us anymore.
Yeah, it really reminds me, and I'm going to butcher the quote, but it's along the lines, I don't even remember who said it, but it's like, you can only awake spiritually to the level of the amount of truth you're willing to hear without running away.
1000%. And, my life quote, I don't know if I've ever said this on this podcast before, but my life quote is, there's an A.S. Nin quote that it says, when one pretends, the entire body revolts. And that quote has found me time and time again.
Say it one more time.
When one pretends, the entire body revolts.
Wow. Yeah.
And it has always found me like at the most opportune times. And it's been like an unavoidable in your face finds me in a way that is like, okay, I get it, universe. Yeah. But it's one of those things where, for me having cancer, I talk about a body revolt.
Yeah.
Right.
Truly.
And it is about the level of truth that you're willing to accept. And for me, accepting that my whole life was based on this premise of being unwanted. Yikes. No wonder your body developed cancer, Alexis. Yeah. So anyway, I digress, but I want to go back to, okay, so you have this experience of, as I'm sure everybody listening to this can relate, everybody at some point in time faced something that felt like, oh, wow, I am being called out on something that feels extremely vulnerable, that has, created an explosion of shame in me. And now I'm going to have to compensate for that for the rest of my life.
Yeah, something is wrong with me. Therefore, I have to prove my worth in the world.
Absolutely. And it happens time and time again, but it's always that sort of that first one that is like, just sets the stage. Yeah. Sets the stage.
The first time I actually felt like I took like a hit in the public eye, because I was so concerned about my perception, right? I'm the fat kid, so now I have to be the captain of the football team. I have to be the student body president. I have to be the perfect kid. Like, I need you to see that I'm good, because in my core, I know that I'm not, because I'm unworthy. Because of my weight.
And can I ask, like, did you ever then have what was your relationship with food and fitness and all of that stuff? I mean, you went from I'm the fat kid to I have to be the most in shape person because I'm the star quarterback.
Yeah. Like, what? So I weighed 300 pounds. So I played offensive line. I was like a big
okay,
legs.
So you just owned it and you turned it into a superpower.
Yeah, I was a good athlete. I mean, I wasn't phenomenal. I wasn't like D1, but like when you're 17 years old, I was a decent football player. So I was captain of the football team. But it was also like this push-pull, because it's like, I'm a good football player, but I'm also overweight. So it's like on the field, it plays good, but like when I'm at parties or I'm trying to hit on the cute girl, like she's not going to like me. So it was kind of, there's pros and cons to it.
Now I'm tracking how this story all pieces together. Okay.
Yeah. And so I have this wound of like, I'm not enough. Therefore, I need your validation for me to feel good inside. My happiness was dependent upon other people's perception of me.
Sure.
And, going back to the mission piece, there's this standard of worthiness. So after more backstory, after I decided not to play college football, I lost a pretty good amount of weight. Because I'm like, I'm not going to carry all this weight. And so I took care of my diet and my exercise, and I lost some weight, and it was really fascinating. So for the first time in my life, towards the end of my senior year of high school, I started getting attention from girls. And I'm like, oh, what's this? Like, I was always one that was looked over because I was the fat kid, and, my friends were always pulling all the girls. And so I lost like 40 or 50 pounds. And, there was this really cute girl that I liked. And every cute girl that I liked never gave me the time of day. And then all of a sudden there's this cute girl at a rival high school, and she starts giving me attention, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, I've never had this experience before. So it felt really, really, really good. So then my validation then went on to, does a pretty girl like me? Because if this beautiful, cute girl likes me, then then the rest of the world can see, like, look, I'm not ugly. I'm attractive. If a beautiful girl likes me, then I must be attractive. So then that same pattern that went from I need to be captain of the football team and everyone sees me, now it's really leveraged in with women. And so teeing up for the mission, there's the standardness of worthiness. I have a girlfriend before I leave. And it's really dramatic when you're 18, when you go on your mission, because you're going to go away for 2 years. You're not going to see him and you're not going to talk to him. And there's always this thing like, I'm going to wait for you. And when you get home, I'm going to marry you. And it's like this total rom-com.
Yes.
It's really high drama.
Puppy love. Yeah.
Yeah. So before I left, the night before I left, I went to go say goodbye to her. And it's like really emotional and you're crying and I'll see you in 2 years, babe. I love you, And we didn't have sex, but we definitely we broke the rules.
Push the limits.
We broke the rules. And then I go on my mission and I broke the rules. So now I've got this like cloud of guilt and shame and God's mad at me and I'm unworthy. And I actually can't teach about Mormonism with the Spirit because the Spirit's not with me because I've been bad. And so this weighed on me and weighed on me and weighed on me. Then 9 months into my mission, I confessed. And I told, the leader of the mission, I'm like, hey, I have to clean up. There's this thing that happened before I left. So I actually got sent home. They kicked me off my mission.
Wow.
So when you're 19 and I was captain of the football team, student body president, upstanding in the neighborhood. And now I have like all this shame and this guilt of like, now I have to like come back home and walk the plank. And so that was like the first time I did something that like the public eye, because I had to keep this really high perception, right? Where like I did something shameful and guilty. And so I remember thinking like, God's mad at me, church is mad at me, neighborhood's mad at me. Like my image is negative. So I need to get my image back up. And so I remember thinking like, oh, how can I get people's love and admiration and respect again? I'm like, oh, I can go make money. And so I got into the sales career to make money. And it was such a win-win because it's like, oh, if I make money, then that's great to have money. And people will respect me and admire me. And if I have money, like because my body is broken, well, I can just buy love. So I started making money and it's crazy. Like I would match with a girl like on a dating app. And our first date is I'll pick her up in my $150,000 Mercedes and we're going to go to the nicest steakhouse and I'm going to take you to front row to the Utah Jazz basketball game.
For those who can't see me, I just keep nodding.
Yeah.
I just keep nodding like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, I'm so insecure. I don't love myself. I don't deserve any of this. So how can I persuade you and buy your love? Like, here's my asset. I've got money, so you should love me.
Right.
And of course, none of those relationships worked out because it was just coming from such a wounded place.
Yeah.
And then, circling back to the beginning of our conversation, I eventually get to this point where like, what am I to do? Like I've made the money, I've been on the dates, like I'm so insecure, I'm unfulfilled. And I've coined this situation, the success void. And so what the success void is, if I were to give you a resume at my life at, 25, 26, you'd read this and be like, dang, this guy's successful.
On paper.
On paper. Mm-hmm. But like I was waking up with like this constant, I was very unsettled. Like always, my leg was always bouncing. I was just really agitated. I was really like, I got to do this and fix this. And I got to get, life to be a certain way. I need to make this much money. I need this girl to like me. And I was just like trying to force an angle and just like manipulate life.
Mm-hmm. Back to that hustle for your worth.
Hustle for my worth. And it got to a point where I just got to a breaking point.
I mean, raise your hands out there if you can relate to that. It's like, sometimes on paper, you are rich AF, but in reality, the liquidity is just not there.
Yeah.
And, I saw this at the most upper levels, even of like when I was working in entertainment and working with A-list celebrities. And I can't tell you the amount of dissatisfaction, the amount of depression, addiction, self-mutilation, violence of one kind or another, whether it was towards self or others or both. I mean, it is the definition of, all of these external measures of value do not make you feel worthy inside.
Yeah.
And it is a constant hustle. And it is sort of that, like, what have you done for me lately? Mm-hmm. Right? It is, you're only as good as your next box office.
Yeah.
What you've done in the past means nothing. What's next? What are you going to show me next? Which sort of makes me have the same sensation of seeing you sitting on that plane, taking off to go to yet another event, just so that you could track down some sort of photo.
And I got the photo. I got a selfie with Kevin Hart and Nicki Minaj in the background.
And there you go.
I took the picture, and here's what's crazy. I took the picture, I posted it, and then I left at halftime.
Yeah. Then there you go, right?
And it was like,
and it was this hustling of like, what have you done for me lately? Like, I'm only as good as my next social media pic.
Yep.
And then maybe all these hearts and likes and comments are coming in, but then you shut off the phone and you put your head on the pillow and you're like, I'm hurting.
Yeah. I'm lonely.
Still hurting.
I'm miserable. What am I doing? Yeah.
And then it almost makes you feel more empty because you're like, because I'm doing all the right things. Why isn't it working? What's wrong with me?
Yep. Yeah. A lot of what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
Right. And so, 2015, 2017 was literally in darkness, like confused, lost, trying to hustle, but can't focus, and just like feeling, incredibly scared, truly. And so what ended up happening, and I'll breeze through this because there's another layer I want to get to in this conversation, because it's something I'm really engaged with right now, and it's a big breakthrough. Very long story short, and if you want the full thing, read the book. I'll go into all the detail. But I had
definitely read the book. I mean, the title alone. Okay, keep going.
Have my first psychedelic experience. And there's a whole backstory behind it that's really fun. Anyways, that just opened me up to new ways of thinking, right? I was able to see some patterns I couldn't see in my life. I could see some wounding. My childhood sexual abuse came up, from a neighbor. My fat kid stuff came up. It showed me that when I was dating, I was actually trying to pick girls who were really, really pretty, because that would then prove to the world that I'm enough because a pretty girl likes me. And I wasn't dating.
I did that saddling up to celebrities.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If they like me, you can like me too.
Yeah,
but then I got so mad when they would kiss up to the celebrity and not to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I'm fully relating. It is. It's messy.
It's messy. So what ended up happening is that, my path to inner healing, if you want to call it, and self-love came through psychedelics, but there's a lot of ways. Like, you don't have to do it. It's, meditation, breath work, yoga, therapy, or you just realizing your life just isn't pleasant, it's going to spark some change. And then what ended up happening, and like what I'm really trying to share with the world right now, is my belief is this: as you do the work, and you hear that a lot, but like really what that is how it's once you remove the blockages and the subconscious belief of why I'm not enough, why I don't belong, what's wrong with me, why am I unwanted?
All the limits your mind puts in place for you. Right?
And here's what's, and it's a lot of work. It's not easy, and it's a process, and you chip away and you chip away and you chip away, and it's exhausting, and it's a very lengthy process. But
also really beautiful.
Yes.
And so worth it. Okay.
Absolutely worth it, because what I'm discovering is there is a energetic force, like a unlimited well inside of you, that's our natural state. And our natural state is love and enthusiasm and joy and being silly and excited and engaging and present. And that is always there. It's always there.
I believe that is when the way that I say it is homeostasis.
Yes.
That is a state of grace that we come into this world with.
Yeah.
And it is our inherent home base.
Yeah.
It is the nature of who and what we are, which is here to be love.
Yeah.
In all of its aspects. And with that comes that, inspiration and enthusiasm and connection and all of those things. And it is amazing how quickly we are moved away from that.
Yeah. And we block it.
We are taught to block it.
Yeah. We block it.
And then we embody and internalize.
Yeah. So my
teachings.
Yeah. My tool. So I'm going to give everyone a tool here.
Tools. We love tools.
Right. It's so simple and it's so easy to use. It almost sounds too good to be true, but you might have to practice it for a very, very long time. Is anytime you feel inner resistance, and that could be from the weather to the car that cuts you off to, your coffee order's taking way too long, to the passive aggressive message you get from a friend, like anything. The moment you feel your body almost tense up, you just relax. You just relax. You relax your shoulders, relax your chest, relax your legs, and then you lean away from it energetically. You lean away from it.
So what I hear you doing is taking someone whose sympathetic nervous system has been activated and moving them into a parasympathetic nervous system state.
Yeah. So let's go deep here. You want to go deep?
There is like, let's go. There is no bottom.
There's 4 levels of response from any given circumstance. The bottom 2 are very unhealthy ways to respond. The third one is misunderstood as a high way of living, but there's actually a 4th level, so I'll go through them. So I'm going to use this analogy, and this is an analogy I got from Michael Singer, who's like my guy.
Yeah, sure.
So the lowest way to respond to a situation is expression. And so here's the analogy. Let's say you have a really important podcast and you've got your dream guest, and they're like, you have to meet me at my office downtown at 8 o'clock in the morning. And you pull up and you're running late and it's 8:05 and you're parking and you run into the building and you get on the elevator and he's on the 100th floor. And you get into the elevator and you're already a little nervous. And you're like, I'm behind, I'm sweating. And the door's about to close. And there's someone by the elevator that every time the door's about to close, hits the open button. And then the door's about to close and he hits the open button.
And all you can imagine, at least for me, all I can imagine is my spiked high heel going into his face.
Right. And the door's about to close again and he hits the open button again. So if that were happening, it's going to get really weird inside. It's going to get really weird, right?
Yeah.
So here are the 4 levels. Lowest level is expression. Heel in the face, you idiot, what are you doing? Like, stop doing that. And it's just really not okay inside. Why are you doing that? I got this, blah, blah, blah. Heel in the face. Expression, lowest level of response. Second lowest level of response, suppression. All of those thoughts are still coming in. You're just not saying them.
Holding them in.
You're holding them in. What is he doing? This idiot. Oh my gosh, I'm late. I got to do this thing. What do you think? Why is he doing that? And this is, and it's just messy.
Inner rage.
Inner rage. It's happening. Most people live their whole lives in those 2 states. Suppression and expression. Suppression and expression. And we all know that if you don't deal with those things, it blows up later. Third level, which is a higher level, and if everyone lived in this 3rd level, life would be better. It's acceptance. So the resistance comes up, and then what you like is, I'm going to be higher than this, and I'm just going to accept it. I'm going to get on top of it. I'm just going to accept it. I'm not okay, but I'm going to use my willpower to accept it. I'm going to be okay. I'm frustrated inside. I'm angry, but I'm going to be above that. But there's still this like push, pull, resistance happening internally of like, it wants to come
The way that
up.
I would sort of explain that is maybe it's like, what's the very least that I could do to drop my sword?
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm going to accept this. Doesn't mean I'm okay with it, but I will do whatever I have to do in order to just accept it and move on because I can't change it.
Yeah. I'm going to accept it, but I'm not okay with it.
Not okay with it.
That's the difference. Level 4, surrender. I am okay with whatever happens. I can handle anything that happens. Might not be in alignment with my preference, might not agree with it, might not be in integrity, might not be moral or just. And you use that moment to go to God or the universe. You relax.
Trust. This
you
is
relax.
the ultimate embodiment of trust.
You allow it to just fully come in. You just surrender. You fall behind it. And it's literally, I can handle anything that happens. I can handle anything that happens. And there's no stickiness.
Right.
It doesn't.
Well, it sort of harkens back to that idea of like, there's nothing between me and God. There's nothing between me and the divine that is unmanageable.
Yeah.
It's all divinely ordained, and I can trust that. And I don't need to let any of the rest of this, mishigas, mean anything beyond what's most important. And it sort of reminds me of at IPEC, we did, you become an energy leadership index master practitioner when you graduate there. But they actually have this, ELI, which is this energy leadership index, and it's these 7 levels of energy. But it's sort of what it reminds me of is, level 1 is, and level 2 are like these catabolic energies, right? Level 1 is I never win. It never works out for me. It's that very victim mentality, right? It's all black. There's no even white. Level 2 is very black and white. It's like either I win or you win, but one of us is not going to make it out of here alive, right? And those are the 2 catabolic levels of energy. Then it moves into anabolic. And the level 3 is sort of that, what do I need to do to drop my sword? What do I need to do to just accept this? Like, it's fine. It's not really fine, but whatever. It's fine. Let's agree to disagree, right? Level 4 is I'm going to contribute, right? I am always going to make sure that somebody else is winning, right? Level 5 is let's find a way where we can both win. Level 6 is we all win all the time. We're starting to move into that more spiritual perspective, right? And level 7 is there's no such thing as winning. It's just a human game that people like to play. Humans like to play games and pretend that there's a winner and a loser, but there's actually no such thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that too. I've never heard that before because it falls into one thing that this is in my next book that I'm working on right now, but I call it there's 3 phases that we go to, and it lines up perfectly. Phase 1 is life happens to me. Mm-hmm. This person did this, and this person happened here, and this person needs to win the election, and why isn't this happening? And it's happening to me, like victim, victim, victim. Phase 2, and this is like personal growth, development, Tony Robbins, life happens for me. This is for my growth. I'm in charge. I can control this. Like, this is for my growth, and I can do something about it, and I can help, and I can serve, right? And then phase 3 is, so life happens to me, life happens for me. In the highest phase, life happens through me.
Through me. I was wondering which word you were going to use there. Yeah.
I always say like,
by me, through me.
When I'm working with clients, I'm like, do you realize that life has no obligation to unfold the way you want it to?
I always say, you could try to arm wrestle the universe. Good luck with that.
Yeah. Life is under no obligation to have it be the way you want it to. And it never will. Mm-hmm. So your opportunity is, how do I surrender to the flow of life? Mm-hmm. And, I think the highest way to live is every moment I interacted with is better off because I was there. Mm-hmm. And life's going to unfold, and there's going to be crazy things that happen and that you don't prefer, and that's okay. Can you handle it?
And that's a matter of believing in your own worthiness, which is not always easy for people, which really walks us back into this idea of, most people, the majority of people walk around beating themselves up all the time, bullying themselves, micromanaging themselves, second guessing themselves, reorganizing themselves to meet what they think is somebody else's expectations or standards or agendas. And it's rampant.
Yeah.
And it is about, in these little moments throughout the day, every little moment throughout the day, realizing, like, I always try to explain to people, like, real empowerment is realizing that in each of those moments you have a choice. And that's it. That's all you have, is a choice on how you're going to manage yourself. There is nothing else to it. It's literally, it's that hard and it's that simple, right?
Yeah. And I like to, on that note, a tool that I'd give too is, when you fight with reality, you lose every time. So you can catch yourself in the shoulds and the ifs and the buts, and it's just, that's the reality. You have to accept reality. I made that decision. Can I just relax and let go?
And make a new choice.
Yeah. I can always make a new decision.
That's right.
And I'm going to screw up again in the future, and I'm going to make terrible decisions. I can handle that. It's okay.
Whatever happens, I am resourceful enough. Let's go back to that concept, right? Whatever happens, I have all the resources that I need to deal with it, without whatever feedback comes, and make a new decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really powerful stuff. Well, I feel like we've looked at the past and we've definitely sat in the present. Like, what is coming for you as we look towards the future?
I have no idea. No clue.
No plan. I mean,
I have a mantra that I love is big goals held loosely.
I love it.
Yeah.
But we can also look at the big goals,
Totally.
right?
Yeah. Like, I mean, it feels like I'm on a path right now of like, my business is growing really strong right now. Like literally this month was the best month in the history of my business.
Bravo.
It's exciting. It's exciting.
Yes. It's not bragging if you've done it. That's what one of
yeah.
my old mentors used to say.
Yeah,
So let's put it out there. Bravo.
Best month ever in my life.
We have to do more celebrating of our wins.
I love
People
to
don't do
celebrate.
enough of that.
Holy shit,
either.
we're alive is a whole life celebration.
Abso-freaking-lutely.
But yeah, speaking gigs picking up and coaching's picking up. I'm at max for the first time in my life. I can't take on a new client. I'm at max capacity.
Bravo.
So that's exciting. And I know that my job is just get out of my own way. Life has never, I'll ask you this question. How good have you been at predicting how your life's going to unfold?
Terribly.
Right. So given your track record, how good are you going to be moving forward?
I'm going to set the intention that I'm going to be fucking fantastic, and it's going to be what it's going to be.
Yeah.
If you would have told me that at 44 years old, I was going to be diagnosed with cancer, or if you would have told me a myriad of things that would have happened in my life, I would have said, you nuts.
Yeah.
But here we are. And I've been resourceful enough to handle it all.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I love that response. And for me, I'm not good at predicting how my life is going to unfold. I probably won't be good moving forward. But if I just continuously can get to an emotional state where I'm regulated.
Yes.
Where I'm calm,
Yes.
I'm relaxed, I'm centered, I'm thinking clearly. I'm not anxious, I'm not frustrated, I'm not disappointed. Because I would say anxious people make poor decisions. Period. Because here's what happens. If I'm anxious, really, really anxious,
Making
or
fear-based
overwhelmed,
decisions.
and I have a decision to make, I'm going to be out of integrity because I'm going to choose the response that I think will make me feel less anxious rather than what's actually the best solution to this problem.
And I think there's something really powerful baked into that, that I've had to learn a lot and practice a lot. I am a very emotional person, and I tend to have really big emotional responses that come on really strong when I feel threatened or in fear or anxious. And I've actually had to learn, as much as my anxiety is like, I have to put this to bed now. I have to resolve this now. I have to respond now. I can't live with this level of being misunderstood or whatever's going on, right? I've got to fix it. I've got to solve it. I can't sit in the uncertainty. I actually have had to learn that I have to sit in it until I regulate my nervous system, until I have a chance to not be so reactive and to reflect and to let the sort of like emotion move through me until a place where I'm back at homeostasis and I can respond with grace.
Yeah.
That's not always easy to do.
Really hard to do.
Really hard to do. It's been a real bitch of a practice for me.
But as you practice,
the
you get better.
results are mind-boggling and
Life-changing.
so worth it. And the more you do it, the better you get at it, like anything else in life.
Yeah, it's just like hiring a coach.
Yes.
When you hire a tennis coach, doesn't mean you're not going to hit the ball in the net anymore. But over time, you get better and you get better and
You get better, you get better, you get better. Yeah. But I do, it's like, I don't know what's coming in the future, but I definitely am setting the intention. I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to see my kids dance at their weddings.
Yeah.
I am medically declaring myself healthy moving forward. I'm setting the intention. Now, life is going to do what life is going to do, but I actually still love to set the intention.
Yeah.
So when we look at the future for you, do you set intentions and goals, or are you just like, no, I'm super present and whatever comes.
I think for me, it's focusing on serving my community of my business. As long as I continuously stay open to new ideas, just life has this weird thing of like, feels like a video game. And as I accomplish something,
Feel like you're leveling up.
An opportunity comes that's really, really hard, or I'll get a nudge to do something. And it just, life's really, really cool. If I just don't get engaged in it and involved and try and force and manipulate it, like the thing will come to me.
Yeah, it's that concept of not grasping, right? Holding things with an open palm.
That's a really good tip. Relax your hands. I tell that to my clients all the time. Just relax your hands. Just relax. And life will continue to unfold. Right. And, things come up and it's not that I'm not being passive.
Yeah.
Right. I'm being open and clear and concise, and, opportunity will come. Like, for example, this podcast. I'm in LA right now. Chase hit me up. I think, you guys would have a great conversation. I'm like, totally. It'll flow,
It'll flow.
Yeah.
It'll flow.
And so, yeah, I have a direction that I would say I'm moving is how do I increase my level of impact?
Yes.
And I think the right things.
And
will
when you're
fall
of
in place.
service, it's that old cliche of like the universe will have your back, right? If you're on purpose and you're in service, you're going to find your people and your people are going to find you.
Yeah.
And it's a great message.
Riding that wave.
Ride that wave. Abso-freaking-lutely. Well, I want to close by asking you the question that we ask everybody that sits in that lovely chair you're in. And that is, if I gave you a mirror right now and you were to gaze into that mirror and you were to drop all external gaze, expectations, opinions, agendas, and having reviewed the really powerful story that lives in you of all the yous that you've been up until this moment in time, if you were to have a look at me now moment from self-acknowledgement and awareness and resilience and all the work that you've done, what is it that you would say to the person staring back at you in the mirror?
I did the visualization with you and it just laughed. And like you're in on a secret laugh. Like, yeah, well, this is the experience. This is the human experience and you're doing great. And it's like,
and holy shit, you're alive.
Yeah, holy shit, you're alive. And it's almost like this in on a secret feeling. Like, yeah, you're doing it, like how fun is that experience?
Yeah.
And like a deeper inner acknowledgement of the gift of life. And it's like, I'm like closing my eyes and I'm seeing this experience and it's like, you've done a lot and there's still a lot to go and enjoy it all.
And what a gift that, what you're trying to do is not have it be a secret.
Yeah.
Right? Like when The Secret came out and it was like, it's a secret, but it's not. We want everybody to have it. And everybody was so fired up about it. It's like the technology is for everybody.
Yeah. If you can just get rid of your blockages.
Yeah.
If you can just remove them, your natural homeostasis state is love and joy and enthusiasm and connection and creation and excitement.
But you're always going to move off of that, right? Like it's really interesting. And I will say this as sort of like a closing point, especially because I'm a devout student of Dr. Demartini and his method, that we're never going to live a one-sided life. We're always going to jump into a judgment. We're always going to jump into seeing something as above or beneath us. We're always going to jump into a shadow, but the opposite is always equally available to us. And when we bring it in equanimity, when we balance it, when we see all sides as equal for exactly what they are, that's when we return to homeostasis. That's when the balance sheet goes to zero and we live in trust and we live in love and we live in grace. And that's where we are inspired and enthusiastic and hopeful. And that is, I think, what you and I want for everybody. Yeah. All the time.
And it's available for everyone.
It is available for everybody. And it is always going to take work. You and I are not Buddha sitting in mudra pose all day on a mountaintop where everything is perfect. It is a constant process every single day and every single moment. But all the possibilities are there. And that's the best part of the journey.
Amen.
A frickin' man. Well, where can everybody find you? Where can everybody get your book, be in community with you, just have more access to what you're up to?
Yeah, book is every major bookstore, Amazon, holy shit, we're alive. And my Instagram is @Doug_Cartwright. And I do answer all of my DMs.
He does it himself. I mean, what a miracle.
I love chatting with people. I'll talk to anyone.
I mean, it's doesn't get any realer than that in this world. So we'll take that.
Here for it.
Good on you, sir. Well, this has been such a delightful conversation. And I hope y'all are taking away so much from this. I know I am. And we'll look forward to circling back with you all after this podcast drops and getting your thoughts on this conversation. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Signing off, y'all.
Join us for Look at Me Now, wherever you listen to podcasts. And be sure to share, like, and subscribe.